Well, I'm excited about today's video because we're going to introduce you to a product that I think can help with your mosquito applications, but also talk to you a little bit about what you can do to add this extra service on to your business. If there's been two services that I can think of over the past 10 years that I've seen really explode that have to do sort of with lawn service, one would be Christmas light hanging. I've seen that growing big time in my area. And the second would be the mosquito services. Obviously, you're probably seeing that a lot more. It's something that customers are wanting to have done at their lawn. So today I got a special guest. Garrett McCarty's with me, and his company offers weed control and fertilization, but Garrett made the decision several years ago to add mosquito applications to his lawn. So we're going to talk to him about that from a business standpoint, what that's done for his business, how you could go about doing it, and then we're going to talk about some best practices on how to actually control mosquitoes in a lawn. We're here at a lawn that has some challenges as far as keeping the mosquitoes away and how we can go about that. So let's get started right now. All right, so the product we're going to be introducing today in today's video is sponsored by InView. This is a product called Scion insecticide, and you'll see there it says with the UVX technology. Now you say, Jason, that says FMC. InView, which makes a lot of products you may be familiar with if you're in the weed control business like me, like Spectacle and Celsius and things like that. They acquired some of the product line from FMC, and so this is now under the InView umbrella. All right, Garrett, first of all, thank you for being with me, and you're no stranger to the show. You've been on here before, but we're talking this time about mosquitoes, and maybe take me through a little bit of what you did several years ago. I remember, here's what I remember. I remember you telling me that it was a very difficult test to pass, and of course that's going to vary from state to state. But tell me a little bit about, what you were thinking when you went to get a mosquito license. Like, why did you want to do it? And now, years down the road, looking back, how has that impacted your business?
Well, I think one of the biggest things is I was thinking about what other services could I sell that would keep me in the same location without without a ton of drive time and driving here and there and trying to do one or two things on my properties at any given time. Because I wanted to be able to offer that third service. I was doing grass treatments. I was treating beds for weeds, and I wanted a third service. So I went through the licensing process, which took about 6 to 8 months, I can't remember exactly, to get my permits for to apply insecticide around the home, which is also a general pest control license, especially here, or in particular here for the state of Alabama. And I think that might vary state by state. Sometimes your turf spray license will cover pest control as well around the home, which would also, it might enable you to do mosquito without some of that extra testing. So you just check with your state to see if you're eligible to do that with your current weed control and fertilization license. But that's why I decided to do it, is I wanted that extra service to be able to offer my customer base.
So is it kind of the idea, and correct me if I'm wrong, but where you hear people say that it's easier to upsell an existing customer maybe than to go get a new customer? You're just trying to make more money off of, and not just make more money, but you're also trying to provide them a complete solution so that they're not going and getting another service provider to do something while you're already at their home.
That's exactly right. I wanted to be able to add that one other thing that I saw. I would see a lot of my competitor signs in some of my yards where they had come in and completed a mosquito application while I was doing the turf. Now, one of the things that was interesting is some of those competitors of mine actually, some of those service companies actually were also turf treatment companies. So I wanted to also kind of protect myself and be able to offer that mosquito service so that I was the one, maybe not a one-stop shop for everything lawn care related for them, but in terms of chemical applications, I could be a one-stop shop for our customers.
All right, so how has that been as far as when you added this service and I guess you start marketing it to your existing customers and try to get new customers, how has that affected your business? How did you have to hire a new person, or did you cross-train your existing employees? Like, how, practically speaking, how's it going for you?
Well, I think adding that service has been fairly simple in terms of what it took logistically. So I did the service in the beginning just myself. So I wanted to learn what the process looked like, how to become efficient at it. As I was getting started, I would talk to a couple of closer friends and family members of mine, and I wanted to kind of work out the challenges with them because they would be much more forgiving than just a normal customer who I didn't have that long-term relationship with. So I started with about 5 or 10 yards, adding that mosquito treatment program onto our grass service, and really just learning at that point. Where did I need to spray? How did I need to spray around the home? What did the home have around it that maybe present some extra challenges, such as, clogged gutters or a lot of flower pots that would hold water. I learned to inspect around the home as well, which was going to make me look a lot better if I could identify a few things that were going to present some challenges, and we could eliminate those. The standing water and maybe drains and downspouts that weren't draining properly, or even low-lying areas in the yard just stayed damp all the time. Those were things that I learned as I was adding friends and family before offering it to the wider customer base. And then once I started to offer it to all of my customers, I started to train one of my technicians to be able to deliver the service as he was going out on his normal route. So when he was there for a mosquito visit, we could also inspect the turf, and if the turf needed to be treated, it just helped us be much more efficient, and our level of quality rose, because the way we do mosquito control is every 3 weeks. So we were on those customers' lawns every 3 weeks, being able to see what was going on with the grass, as well as getting our mosquito control applied.
So Garrett, we're on this property here that is one that you take care of, and when I pull up here, I see a lot of trees and shrubs and even some mature trees. I think there's a swimming pool in the back. So how do I know where to spray, or how do you know where to spray and what areas to be concerned with, and maybe even how far away from the house do we go? What's your plan of attack for a property like this?
Well, the first thing I do is I look for the easy to spray areas in the landscape. Where are the shrubs that are head high and lower that I'll be able to get a good application with my mister without having to try to shoot an extreme distance into the air, when you do that, there's if the wind's blowing a little bit, it's going to have mist, it's going to drift into other places. So I like to find places in the yard where it's going to be easy and very effective. I also look around, and when I'm going around a property like this, I ask myself, where would I congregate? So I may not have that conversation with the customer in particular, but I'm just trying to be observant. Where are people walking in and out of the house? Where do they stand and talk when people leave in the evenings? So the front door, anywhere around the front or the rear entrance of the home, I'm going to pay more attention to, versus out by the mailbox where there may be an outstanding amount of shrubs to spray. It's not going to be high on my priority list in terms of treating that yard, especially if that area is 50 or 60 or 70 feet away from the main area that customers are going to be kind of hanging out around their home.
So for somebody that doesn't know, and like me, doesn't know a lot, are you saying the mosquitoes typically live around the shrubs? I know they spray the shrubs and trees. I mean, are they living in the shrubs? I always think of mosquitoes living like in a water, the kids' swimming pool.
Well, they will. They'll definitely lay eggs and hatch their larvae will develop in little pools of water and things like that. But during the day, once they become adults, they're going to harbor underneath on the bottom side of leaves, and then they'll become more active as it cools off and we get closer to the evening time. It doesn't mean they won't be active during the day, but that's where you're going to find them. That's where you're going to have the biggest impact with your spray, is on the bottom side of any of the foliage around the home.
All right, Gary, so you answered a lot of my questions, but now let's get down to the actual application. When you pull up on a yard like this, you're saying, okay, here's the front door, there's a swimming pool in the back, there's obviously a lot of trees and stuff. So like, what's the actual plan of attack when you pull up on here? Are you targeting shrubs that are out away from the house, or ignoring those altogether, or do you just get the ones around the house, or what do you do?
Yep. So the first thing I do is I'm going to find a starting point around the interior perimeter of the yard. So basically up against the home. And really the practical reason I do that is if my machine dies halfway through this service, I want to at least have up against the house treated. I wouldn't want to start out far and wide and then work my way in. So I'm just going to start in and work my way out. So the first thing I'll do is I'll find a corner of the home. It might be where there's a gate located. This house does not have a gate on the right side, it does on the left side. So I'd find a corner and then I would start. So I would walk through here and spray the underside of these leaves, as well as any kind of overhang. So where this cantilevered window is, I would spray underneath that overhang, because mosquitoes will be harboring there as well throughout the day. And as we go through and we get closer to, even though I would have a tendency to just want to spray both directions, I still stay focused on the inside, to my right, up against the home. So here through the entrance, the front door, spray on both sides. I would spray into the pine straw, and if there's a thick, just like this ground cover, it's real thick, you could spray into that to get those leaves to move and get your insecticide on those leaves as well. I have made the mistake before by accidentally spraying over one of my customers' windows. So we don't do that anymore, because I was a window cleaner for a day. So I do not spray directly onto the home if at all possible, and I avoid windows. We don't want to create any kind of mist or film on the windows. We stay clear of that. Really trying to stay, and I don't even think, like when it comes to spraying up against the house, you can spray the bottom foot of the perimeter, and you're going to have a lot of additional benefits of even taking care of general household pests that might be entering the home that way. So we will spray up against the house, any kind of overhang, and if I can safely reach around the eave where they may have evening lights, I'll spray around that. If they turn the lights on, it'll attract bugs. It'll have an additional impact on more nuisance bugs around the home, because it's attracting insects to the light and they're touching that insecticide that we sprayed up there. So it helps take that insect population down even more.
And Garrick, I know kind of basic equipment is having a backpack mister here, and we've got the sign. Can you talk a little bit about the advantage? And the sign here, they advertise this UVX technology on it, but talk about the advantage of using a product like this, that the way it's created, they market it as giving you 75 days of effectiveness. So what does that mean for a business as far as productivity and things of that nature?
Yeah. Well, I think going back to why did I even start this, part of it was for profitability, to increase my profit, not just to add a service for the sake of adding a service. So you do want to improve the bottom line, and by adding a service that you can do while you're there without an extra visit, impacts that tremendously. So we also try to do a great job when we're there, so that we don't have to come back and do a callback. That's another trip out to that property without being able to send an invoice after you're done. When using Scion, you've got a larger time frame, up to 75 days of coverage. You also, being in Alabama, every 2 or 3 days we have isolated thunderstorms roll through the area, and it's at some point of the day, some of my yards are going to get wet. So we have to use a product that's going to work through that. And today it's 95 degrees, extremely hot. A lot of our yards are in direct sunlight. They don't have a ton of tree canopy covering them and keeping them cool. So you have to use a product that works in the extremes, whether it's real wet, real damp, or very hot and dry. So that's why I would grab Scion and use it. That's one of the reasons that I would do that.
Thanks, Gary, for being with us, and I appreciate you guys watching the video. I'm going to put a link in the description to the Scion if you want to check it out. I think it's available on the EOP program for InView, or you can go and check out the EOP video that's going to be popping up on your screen now if you want to have more details on the EOP program for InView. Thanks for watching. We'll see you guys in the next video.